That's the horrific scene from Zaporizhzhia, Ukraine, where Russia is raining down its ballistic missiles and drones to kill innocent Ukrainians. This follows Russia killing 25 innocent Ukrainians in Ternopil, including 3 children the other night. While this is taking place, Ukraine has sent its deputy ambassador to the United Nations, Kristina Hivoshin, on behalf of Zelenskyy to firmly and loudly reject the United States' effort to try to get Ukraine to surrender to Russia. The U.S. was working behind the scenes with Kirill Dmitriev, who heads the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund, who's viewed as a special envoy between Russia and the United States. And Dmitriev and the United States and Putin came up with a 28-point plan that was a total capitulation and surrender for Ukraine. The Trump regime was going to bill this as a peace plan. The 28-point plan leaked right before Zelenskyy was going to meet with Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy to Russia, and Erdogan in Turkey, the leader of Turkey. And Witkoff then canceled his meeting to Turkey, as Ukraine said under no circumstance would they ever agree to this total capitulation and surrender. If you take a look at this 28-point plan, it basically gives up most of eastern Ukraine. It also prevents Ukraine from really building up its army and joining NATO. It's basically all of Putin's demands listed in one document. I just want to show you what's been going down. So Zelenskyy sends the deputy ambassador to the United Nations, Kristina Hivoshin, and she just gave a very powerful speech. It's a very firm statement where she said, okay, we've seen this 28-point plan, and let me be very clear, we will never agree to anything like this. Anything that gives up Ukrainian sovereignty, that gives up this Ukrainian territory, that gives up security defenses, Ukraine is never going to agree to. Here she is. Watch this powerful speech in the United Nations. Let's play it.
Ukraine has officially received from the American side a draft plan. We outlined the fundamental principles that matter to our people. We agree to work on the plan's provisions in a way that would bring about a just end of the war. In this context, allow me to make several critical points. First, while Ukraine stands ready to engage in meaningful negotiations to end this war, including at the leaders' level, our red lines are clear and unwavering. There will never be any recognition, formal or otherwise, of Ukrainian territory temporarily occupied by the Russian Federation as Russian. Our land is not for sale. Ukraine will not accept any limits on its right to self-defense or on the size and capabilities of our armed forces. Nor will we tolerate any infringement on our sovereignty, including our sovereign right to choose the alliances we want to join. Any genuine peace process must respect a fundamental principle: nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and nothing about Europe without Europe. And let me be equally clear, we will not reward the genocidal intent that underpins Russian aggression by undermining our identity, including our language. Second, support for Ukraine is indispensable. Peace requires strengthened security and sustained financial assistance to Ukraine. Reinforcing Ukraine's defense capabilities is not an escalation. It is the only path to compelling Russia to engage constructively in international peace efforts. In this regard, we express profound gratitude to all partners and allies. This support is an investment in the rules-based international order and global peace. Third, the Kremlin regime will not stop unless it is stopped through unyielding and concerted pressure. There is only one realistic path to ending this war. Russia must be compelled to retreat economically, politically, and militarily.
Now, at the same time that she gave that speech, Zelenskyy was preparing a speech of his own that he released to the Ukrainian people and to the world. And he was being diplomatic and recognizing that he received the U.S. plan, which is really the U.S. and Russia plan. And again, Zelensky's being diplomatic here. He just makes it clear that Ukraine is never going to agree to anything where they have to give up their sovereignty, and anything that would not prevent Russia from just continuing to invade Ukraine. Here's what Zelenskyy said. Play this clip.
I wish you good health. Today I had a meeting with representatives from the United States. It was a substantial delegation and a very serious discussion. The American side presented its proposals, specific points for a plan to end the war. This is their vision.
From the very first days of this war, we have consistently maintained one extremely simple position. Ukraine desperately needs peace, a truly genuine and lasting peace, a peace that cannot be shattered or broken by a third invasion.
A dignified peace for conditions to respect our independence, our sovereignty, and the dignity of the Ukrainian people. And we must ensure precisely these conditions. I've outlined what is fundamentally important to us, and we've agreed that the teams will work on these proposals to ensure they are truly authentic. We will not be making any rash statements, and we are committed to clear, honest work.
And just so you're all clear that Russia has zero intention of peace, and I know you know this, but I'll show you a speech that was just given yesterday by Putin. And Putin says, and when you listen to what Putin says here, it sounds exactly the way like Donald Trump's speeches, the way Donald Trump gives his speeches, like totally laden in conspiracies and nonsense. You would think that he was like a Trump speech talking about the deep state or whatever. Here's what Putin said, and you'll see there's no prospect that Putin's going to do anything other than try to completely wipe out Ukraine and complete the genocide that he is attempting to do right now. Here, play this clip.
What the political leadership of Ukraine is, we already understand. It's no longer political leadership in any real sense. Since March of last year, a group of individuals, a criminal organization, an organized crime syndicate, which since March of last year has usurped power and under the pretext of the necessity to continue the war with Russia, maintains its grip on power in Ukraine for the sole purpose of personal enrichment. And this has now become a widely and well-known fact, actually based on the findings of an anti-corruption investigation carried out within Ukraine itself. And I think it's quite clear to everyone that these people who are just sitting on a fortune are unlikely to think about their country's fate, about its destiny. Ordinary people of Ukraine, the officer corps, let alone the common soldiers, they have no time for that.
Okay, so let me read you some headlines quickly because I've got some big stories to share with you. Missouri battery plant cancels project after Trump pulled $200 million grant, killing 1,000 jobs. Trump's energy policies shutter New Jersey clean energy project that would have lowered costs. Trump administration revokes Biden ban on drilling and mining in Alaskan wilderness. Every step of the way, you see the Trump administration canceling clean energy projects that are not only good for the environment, but also provide thousands of jobs to Americans. And while they're doing that, they are ripping away the regulations that protect the lands that actually make America great. Here's what all this really means. In Missouri, a major battery plant that would have created 150 permanent jobs and 900 union construction jobs collapsed overnight after Trump used the government shutdown as an excuse to yank a $200 million grant. That's not America first. That's giving China a head start, and the numbers prove it. Since Trump took office, more than 158,000 clean energy jobs have been lost or stalled as Chinese EV production booms. And the damage doesn't stop there. In New Jersey, a massive offshore wind project that would have powered 1 million homes is now dead because of Trump's so-called regulatory changes. Meanwhile, electricity prices in New Jersey have jumped 21% in a year, the highest in the country, while Trump keeps claiming that he's lowering costs. Across the country, solar plants are going bankrupt, EV battery factories are laying off thousands, and companies are canceling long-planned U.S. investments because Trump and Republicans gutted tax credits and sabotaged clean energy incentives. Michigan alone has watched 6 projects shut down in 2 months, while North Carolina lost more than 1,500 jobs across solar, battery, and construction. And while these clean energy jobs disappear, what is the Trump administration doing? They're opening millions of acres of pristine Alaskan wilderness to drilling and mining, undoing Biden's protections, ignoring indigenous communities, and greenlighting fossil fuel projects in some of the most fragile ecosystems on Earth. This isn't just bad policy, it is a direct attack on the American economy, America's workers, and America's future. So let me ask you this. What do you think? How are these decisions affecting your community, your state, your family's bills, and so on? I want to hear your thoughts on the climate, on clean energy, on what kind of country we're fighting for. So please drop your comments below. Speak out now. Your voice matters. Ben, back to you.
Here's how the Hill media company reported the discovery of this 28-point plan. Trump's 28-point Ukraine peace plan catches Congress off guard. Lawmakers in both parties, including Trump allies like Lindsey Graham, are alarmed at this. You have people like Don Bacon, Republican Congress member, saying this is just like 1938 Munich. This is completely unacceptable. I'll share with you just some of the terms of this 28-point plan. It's not a peace plan, it's a surrender plan. Security and political status of Ukraine. Confirmation of Ukraine's sovereignty. Ukraine receives security guarantees from the U.S., but with conditions. Ukraine enshrines non-alignment and rejection of NATO in the Constitution. NATO confirms that Ukraine is a non-permanent member. The size of the armed forces of Ukraine is limited. Ukraine must remain a non-nuclear state. Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk are recognized as Russian. Kherson and Zaporizhia are frozen on the contact line. Part of the territories becomes a demilitarized buffer zone under the de facto control of the Russian Federation. Both sides undertake not to change the borders by force. NATO does not deploy any troops in Ukraine. NATO fighters are deployed in Poland. And then it goes on to say Russia legally fixes the policy of non-aggression against Ukraine and Europe. Sanctions are lifted against Russia. Russia becomes a member of the G7, which now becomes the G8. Long-term economic cooperation between the U.S. and the Russian Federation. And, it seemed that there were different tracks. Like this seemed to be coming from Witkoff, Kirill Dmitriev, and the White House. And it seemed to perhaps even catch Marco Rubio off guard. It definitely caught Keith Kellogg, who is also an envoy to Ukraine, off guard. All the reporting is that he's either been pushed out, fired, or he's resigned, in large part because of what's taking place and the fact that the U.S. was trying to force Ukraine into this surrender. I'll show you what Caroline Leavitt said during the press conference that was held yesterday. This is directly from Caroline Leavitt. You can hear what she says here. Let's play it.
I've seen quite a bit of reporting on the latest with Russia, Ukraine. So let me clarify and give you guys the truth on where it currently stands. President Trump has made it very clear since day one, and even on the campaign trail, that he wants to see this war come to an end. He has grown increasingly frustrated with both sides of this war, Russia and Ukraine alike, for their refusal to commit to a peace agreement. But nevertheless, the president and his national security team are steadfast in seeing this war come to an end, to end the killing and deliver on the president's promise. Special Envoy Witkoff, Marco Rubio, have been working on a plan quietly for about the last month. They've been engaging with both sides, Russia and Ukraine, equally to understand what these countries would commit to in order to see a lasting and durable peace. That's how you get to a peace negotiation, right?
Here's how the Kyiv Post describes what took place inside Trump's quiet push for a peace plan that smells like Moscow. Revelations of a Russia-friendly proposal ignite infighting in Trump's foreign policy team and rattle Kyiv and European allies. The Trump administration is scrambling to contain a diplomatic rift after the sudden, very public emergence of a U.S.-backed draft peace plan for Russia's war in Ukraine, a leak that has exposed dueling narratives, competing power centers, and foreign policy process increasingly defined by improvisation. The plan, which officials were forced to acknowledge Thursday, has already raised alarm across Europe for its striking proximity to the Kremlin demands. Then it talks about how Steve Witkoff, officials close to Witkoff, not only confirm the plan exists, but that it has already been delivered to both Kyiv and Moscow, even arguing that Witkoff has spent the past month quietly collecting the views from both capitals. By that, it likely means Witkoff collecting the views from Russia. We know that Witkoff, he's the guy who shows up with Russia with his hand on his heart, and he just appears to me to be a Putin bootlicker, in my opinion. The White House scrambled after the leak of this document. The initial leaked document, described by people familiar with it, is a sweeping 28-point proposal mirroring many of Moscow's aims, from territorial concessions to limits on Ukraine's military posture. It reads like Russia's wish list right here. And so Witkoff was preparing to ambush Zelenskyy in Istanbul, Turkey, with this 28-point plan of surrender. Zelenskyy and the Europeans uncovered what was going to take place. They got ahead of it by saying, we're only going to agree to the European Ukrainian plan, which should be in the interest of everybody, which is normal, and not allowing Russia to basically conquer Ukraine. And again, you have Donald Trump. I mean, the article talks about improvisation. It's more like chaos and mayhem, and Trump being Putin's bootlicker right here. And so we'll keep you posted every step of the way, but MeidasTouch has been on top of this. Go back to our coverage. We were calling this, 2 days ago? We were talking about this 3 days ago. We've been covering Ukraine forever, but specifically our reporting showed that this is what was going to happen. And sure enough, confirmation of it now. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. And thank you so much for watching.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.meidastouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.meidastouch.com.